Hey guys, tonight we are going to travel back in time, not just as observers, but as participants in one of history's most demanding, and frankly, most dangerous beauty regimens. Think of it as the ultimate skincare challenge, except the stakes are a little higher than a minor breakout. You might, quite literally, not make it through this one with your face intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment below with your city and what time it is for you. I love seeing where you all are listening from as the world quiets down. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The heavy tapestry on the wall does little to keep the chill out. It depicts a hunt. Frozen in time dogs with their teeth bared. A stag caught mid-leap, but the only thing you feel is the creeping cold of the stone castle seeping into the room. Outside, a late autumn wind howls a lonely song around the turrets. You are sitting at your vanity, a heavy piece of dark, carved oak. The air smells of beeswax from the single sputtering candle and the faint, clean scent of lavender from the linens in a nearby chest. You lean closer to the mirror. It's not a mirror like we know today. It's a small, precious thing. A disc of polished silver, not glass. It's your most prized personal possession. A gift from your father on your 16th birthday. The reflection it offers is soft, a little murky, as if you're re-looking at yourself through a faint mist. And you don't like what you see. It's not that you aren't comely. You have wide, clear eyes and a well-formed mouth. The problem is your skin. You trace a finger along your cheekbone. The metal of your ring cold against your skin. You can see pills. A rosy flush from your afternoon walk along the castle ramparts. A tiny constellation of faint freckles scattered across the bridge of your nose. A ghost of the summer sun. In another time, another world, this would be considered beautiful. Here, now, it's a mark of the comet. It's the complexion of a milkmaid, a farmer's daughter, someone who has to feel the sun on her face and the wind on her skin because her life demands it. Your life demands something else entirely. You are a lady, and a lady, a true lady of noble birth, should be pale, not just a little pale. She should be as white as milk, as pristine as fresh fallen snow. This is the great, unspoken rule of beauty in your world. A mainstream historical fact that governed every aspect of a noblewoman's life. Your skin was your resume. Paleness was the ultimate status symbol, a clear, unmistakable sign that you did not labor. It meant you lived a life of leisure, indoors, shielded from the vulgarities of the sun and toil. It meant you were wealthy, refined, and utterly separate from the masses. You sigh, the warm breath fogging the silver for a moment before it clears. You've tried everything the household woman of remedies has suggested. Poultices of crushed barley and goat's milk that left you smelling like a barn. Washing your face with stale wine, which just made your eyes water. You even spent a week dutifully dabbing your face with the morning dew collected from rose petals, a surprisingly popular, if not entirely effective, remedy at the time. A strange little piece of trivia. Isn't it the belief that something so pure and untouched by man could bestow its purity onto your skin? It did not. The freckles remained. The healthy, vibrant flush in your cheeks persisted, a stubborn testament to your good circulation. The frustration is a familiar, bitter taste in your mouth. At court, you see them. The women who seem to glide through the great hall. Their faces perfect, luminous ovals in the torchlight. Their skin doesn't reflect light, it seems to absorb it, to glow from within. They look ethereal, untouchable, like goddesses carved from ivory. How do they achieve it? Historians still debate precisely when this ghostly pallor shifted from being a simple indicator of an indoor life to an aggressive, almost theatrical, statement of aristocracy. Some point to the influence of Avoric romances, with their endless descriptions of heroines with skin as white as hollow bone. Others argue it was a more practical reaction to diseases like smallpox and measles, a perfectly smooth, White canvas was the ultimate proof that your face was unmarred by the scarring that plagued so much of the population. A flawless face wasn't just beautiful. It was a triumph over death and disease. You pull back from the mirror, the candlelight catching the silver and throwing your own face back at you. A familiar stranger. Your face, so full of life, feels like a betrayal. The deep emerald green of your velvet gown only serves to make your skin look more outdoorsy, more robust, more common, and that is a word you cannot afford. The frustration you feel begins to harden, crystallizing into a quiet, steely resolve. There has to be another way. A better, more powerful way to get the face you need. The face that will earn you the right kind of husband, the right kind of invitations, the right kind of life. Your skin isn't just skin. It's a liability. And as you snuff out the candle, plunging the room into darkness, you become more determined than ever to fix it. The next day, the sun streams through the high, arched windows of the great hall, illuminating swirling dust motes in golden shafts of light. But you avoid it. You and the other ladies of the household are seated on benches along the walls, engaged in embroidery, the socially acceptable form of female industry. Your needle moves mechanically, pulling shimmering silk thread through a piece of linen. But your mind is elsewhere. Your attention is fixed on the world around you, a world you are now seeing with a new, painful clarity. You're not just looking at people anymore, you're reclassifying them by the color of their skin. There, near the main door, is the wife of a wool merchant visiting from the south. She's dressed in fine fabrics. Her purse is clearly heavy, but her face is a disaster. It's ruddy and sun-kissed, glowing with a vitality that almost seems offensive in this hole. The other ladies whisper behind their hands, their smiles thin and sharp. The merchant's wife is rich. Yes, but she is not one of them. Her face tells a story of travel, of exposure to the elements, of a life lived, at least partly, in the real world. And in this context, that story reads as common, almost vulgar. Then you look at Lady Annalise, the daughter of a visiting duke. She sits perfectly still, her posture immaculate. She is so pale she seems almost translucent, as if she were carved from alabaster. Her skin isn't just white, it's devoid of color. A perfect, unblemished canvas. It's the ultimate humble brag of your era. It loudly proclaims, I have never had to work. I have never felt the sun's harsh rays on my skin for more than a moment. My entire existence is one of sheltered, delicate, and expensive leisure. This is the core truth. Your grappling with paleness is not about beauty in the abstract. It is the most visible and undeniable signal of your place in the world. It is a currency more valuable than gold, because it cannot be easily faked. Or so you believe. This obsession with a ghostly complexion goes beyond just class. Though, it's woven into the very fabric of morality and medicine. A weird little fact for you for a noblewoman. A tan wasn't just a sign of being low class, it could be interpreted as a sign of a loose moral character. Why? Because it suggested you were spending time outdoors, unchaperoned, perhaps in a rustic or uncontrolled setting. A pale face was the face of a virtuous woman, one who stayed within the safe, supervised confines of the home and court. The sun, in a way, was seen as a corrupting influence, something that could physically stain you with the mark of the wild, the untamed, and the common. So the pressure you feel isn't just social climbing, it's about defending your honor, your very reputation as a chaste and proper lady. And then there's the science of the day, or what passed for it. Historians are still in a lively debate about how much of this beauty standard was driven by social signaling versus the prevailing medical theories of the four humors. The theory, inherited from the ancient Greeks, held that the body was composed of four fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. A healthy person had these in balance. A pale, cool complexion was thought to be indicative of a phlegmatic or melancholic temperament. Calm, serene, thoughtful. A ruddy, flushed face, on the other hand, suggested a sanguine temperament, one dominated by blood-hot, moist, and associated with the passionate, boisterous, and frankly less refined nature of peasants and laborers. So to present a pale face was to present yourself as emotionally and intellectually superior. Your inner self as cool and controlled as your outer appearance. It was a full-body advertisement of your aristocratic refinement. You look down at your own hands against the white linen of your embroidery. They seem so pink, so alive, so full of blood. You suddenly feel self-conscious, tucking them slightly under your work. You feel a flush of heat rise in your own cheeks, a blooming of the very color you despise, and you wish you could simply will it away. Every beat of your healthy heart feels like a betrayal, pumping that vibrant, common color to the surface of your skin. Your gaze drifts back to Lady Annalise. You've always admired her from afar, but now you find yourself studying her with an almost forensic intensity. She is talking to a young knight, her expression serene, but as she turns her head slightly too low, the light from the window catches her cheek at just the right angle, and you see it. It's not skin, or rather, it is, but it's coated in something. It's a layer of something thick, matte, and unnervingly perfect. It doesn't have the subtle texture of real skin. It's more like a mask, a beautiful, flawless, porcelain mask. And in that moment, the whispers you've heard in the castle corridors, the hushed gossip about a secret substance, a miracle cosmetic bought from traders who come from the glittering canals of Venice, suddenly click into place. The realization dawns on you, cold and thrilling. Her perfection isn't born, it's made. The days that follow are a blur of quiet observation. You've become a spy in the court, a silent collector of secrets. You linger in shadowed alcoves, your embroidery forgotten in your lap, just to listen. You watch the interactions, the subtle power plays, all through the new lens of this cosmetic conspiracy. The women of the court are divided into two distinct groups: the naturals, with their varying shades of healthy, human skin, and the others, the white ghosts, the porcelain dolls. These women, you notice, move differently. They are more reserved in their expressions, their faces held in a kind of serene, placid stillness. At first, you thought it was just aristocratic poise. Now you realize it's a practical necessity. A wide smile might crack the facade. A hearty laugh could be disastrous. Their faces are precious, fragile works of art, and they protect them accordingly. They are the true center of attention in the court. Men flock to them, their own faces flushed with wine and exertion, drawn to the women's cool, otherworldly calm. They are the queens of this strange, silent pageant. One evening, during a banquet, you find yourself seated near a lady in waiting named Eleanor, a woman a few years older than you with a sharp, knowing glint in her eyes. She is one of them. Her face is a perfect, luminous oval in the candlelight, emboldened by the watered wine and your own desperation. You lean in, feigning a casual curiosity. "Lady Eleanor," you whisper, your voice barely audible above the din of the hall. Your complexion is the envy of everyone here. You must have the most peaceful and untroubled spirit. Eleanor turns her head slowly, a practiced, deliberate movement. Her dark eyes appraise you for a long moment. A tiny smile plays on her painted lips, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Peaceful spirit helps. "My dear," she murmurs, her voice a low conspiratorial hum. "But a good merchant helps more." She gives you a subtle wink, so fleeting you almost miss it. The confirmation hangs in the air between you, thick with unspoken meaning. The whispers you heard before now start to form a coherent story. The product has a name spoken in hushed, reverent tones Venetian Ceruse, or sometimes the spirits of Saturn. It's said to be the most potent, most effective, and most exclusive skin whitener in all of Christendom. It doesn't just lighten the skin, it transforms it, creating a thick, durable, enamel-like finish that hides every freckle, every blemish, every sign of life and time. It's the secret of the truly elite. But it's a dangerous secret. The whispers also carry warnings. You hear fragmented stories. A lady in a neighboring court whose teeth turn black. Another whose hands tremble uncontrollably. These stories are dismissed as jealous gossip. The bitter imaginations of women who cannot afford or acquire the sea are used for themselves. The porcelain women themselves seem untouchable, gliding through the court as living proof that the rumors are false. Who would you believe, the evidence of your own eyes, or the sour grapes chatter of the less beautiful? A strange but true detail about this underground trade acquiring something like Venetian sea, our use wasn't like going to a shop. It was often sold by apothecaries or even alchemists. Men who dealt in exotic and sometimes legally questionable substances. Its key ingredient, lead, was associated with the planet Saturn in alchemical lore. Saturn was the planet of slowness, coldness, and death, which is how the cosmetic got its chillingly accurate nickname, the spirits of Saturn. The women using it might not have known the chemical specifics, but the name itself was a dark little clue. Historians still puzzle over the exact level of awareness these women had about the dangers. Did they know it was poison? The answer is probably a murky yes and no. The concept of slow-acting, cumulative poisoning wasn't well understood. Sickness was often attributed to an imbalance of humors, divine displeasure, or bad day. The connection between a cosmetic applied today under mysterious illness that appeared months or years later was not a straight line for them. They likely knew it was a harsh substance, but they may have believed that its ill effects could be managed with other remedies, or that their own superior constitution would protect them. You see this denial playing out right in front of you. A few days later, you see Lady Eleanor in the gardens, seeking a moment of privacy. She dabs at her forehead with a silk handkerchief, and when she pulls it away, you see a faint, irritated redness on her skin where the white perfection has been momentarily wiped away. She catches you looking, and for a split second, her serene mask drops. You see a flicker of something in her eyes, panic pain, before she quickly recovers her composure, gives you a tight, dismissive nod, and sweeps away. The sight doesn't scare you as much as it should. Instead, it emboldens you. The irritation on her skin is proof. It's real. It works. The risk, whatever it may be, suddenly seems manageable. A small price to pay for the power you see her and the other white ghosts wield every single day. You are no longer content to be an observer. You need to find this merchant. You need to possess this secret for yourself. The image of those perfect, serene, and powerful faces is burned into your mind, eclipsing any whisper of a rumor or fleeting glimpse of red, irritated skin. Your quest begins not in the sunlit halls of the castle, but in its shadowed underbelly. The world of merchants, apothecaries, and alchemists is a man's world, and a dangerous one for an unaccompanied noblewoman. You can't simply ask for it, so you use the resources available to you, the castle's network of servants. You start with your own handmaiden, a young girl named Alice, bribing her with a silver coin and a half-eaten pot of honeyed figs. You ask her to listen, to keep her ears open for talk of a trader who deals in special pigments or exotic powders from the south. Days turn into a week, and you hear nothing. Your frustration melts. Every time you see one of the porcelain ladies, a fresh wave of envy and impatience washes over you. You are falling behind in the silent, ruthless competition you've only just come to understand. Finally, late one evening, Alice comes to your chambers, her eyes wide. She heard two of the stable hands talking about an odd visitor, a man who doesn't deal in horses or grain, but in small, heavy pots. He arrives after dusk and meets with the steward in a discreet side office. His name, they said, is Master Perilous. Now you have a name. The next step is the most perilous. You must acquire the Ceruse. You know you can't approach him yourself, so you devise a plan, one that feels both clever and incredibly risky. You tell your father you have a sudden and intense interest in painting miniatures, a suitably demure hobby for a lady. You speak of needing the finest, purest white pigment for the delicate work. It's a plausible lie. White lead, the core component of Ceruse, was also a prized pigment used by artists for centuries. It was known as flake white, and it created the most brilliant, opaque white imaginable. Your father, pleased by your newfound artistic inclination, agrees. He gives you a small pouch of coins and sends a message to the steward to procure the artist's pigment for you from the next suitable merchant. It's a roundabout, arm's-length transaction, but it's the only way. You wait. Your nerves stretch taut. You are essentially trying to buy a controlled substance using your father's name and money. After 2 agonizing days, a small, unmarked wooden box is delivered to your room by a servant. It's heavy for its size. You wait until you are completely alone. The door barred, before you pry it open. Inside, nestled in a bed of raw wool, sit a small, ornate pot made of pewter. You lift it. It feels cool and solid in your hand. This is it. You unseal the lid. The substance inside is a dense, stark white cake of powder. It looks like packed snow. There's a faint, sharp, almost vinegary smell to it. This smell is the ghost of its creation. What you're holding in your hand is the result of a process that was part chemistry, part alchemy. The recipe for Venetian Ceruse was a closely guarded trade secret for centuries, and historians still work to piece together the exact methods from old texts. The most common process, however, was known as the Dutch method or stack process. It involved taking rolls or coils of lead metal and exposing them to the fumes of vinegar, often by placing them on racks over pots of it. The whole setup was then buried in something that would ferment and generate heat, like horse manure or tanning bark. Over several weeks, the acetic acid from the vinegar vapor would corrode the surface of the metallic lead, forming lead acetate. Then, the carbon dioxide released from the fermentation process would react with the lead acetate, converting it into a new compound, basic lead carbonate. This was the magic ingredient. The white, flaky substance would then be scraped off, washed, ground into a fine powder, and dried. A strange and rather disgusting tidbit, it's said that the finest Ceruse was made with horse manure, as the heat it generated was more consistent. So the beautiful, pristine substance of courtly legend was quite literally born from metal, acid, and dung. You, of course, know none of this. You only see the pristine white powder. You have no concept of lead carbonate, of acetic acid, of chemical reactions. To you, this is a form of magic. It's a miracle powder that promises to transform you. You dip your fingertip into it. The texture is incredibly fine, soft, and surprisingly heavy. It's smoother than any flour or starch you've ever felt. Historians and chemists today are still fascinated by the properties of this stuff. They debate whether other ingredients were added to improve the texture or scent. Some old recipes mention things like egg whites, poppy oil, or perfumes being mixed in to create the final cosmetic paste. But the core of its power and its danger, the lead carbonate, was always the same. It was so effective because the lead particles were very small and dense, providing incredible opacity. It didn't just tint the skin, it completely masked it under a layer of brilliant, flat white, a perfect mass. You stare at the pot, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. This small, heavy object holds the key to your future. It feels like you're holding a captured star, a piece of the moon, a tangible promise of beauty and power. The faint, sharp smell seems to fill your small room, a scent you will come to associate with hope, secrecy, and transformation. You have it. You have the secret. No. You just need the courage to use it. The pewter pot sits on your vanity for a full day. A silent challenge. Every time you look at it, a jolt of fear and excitement runs through you. This isn't like rubbing your face with dew or barley paste. This feels different, transgressive. You're about to knowingly apply something to your skin that is spoken of in whispers. A substance of rumored power and ambiguous danger. The cost was significant. The pouch of coins your father gave you is now considerably lighter. But the true cost, you sense, is not measured in silver. You feel like an alchemist yourself, preparing for a great and mysterious work. You need to turn the powder into a usable paste, an ointment as the apothecaries would call it. Alice, your handmaiden, is too much of a risk. You can't let her in on your secret, so you must do it yourself. You remember the whispers and the fragmented advice you've pieced together. The powder must be mixed with a liquid to form a paste. Some women used water, others used oils. You decide on a compromise you've devised yourself. In a small ceramic bowl, you mix a spoonful of the white powder with a few drops of rose water for scent, and a tiny bit of egg white, which you've heard helps the mixture bind and dry to a smooth finish. You stir it with a small wooden stick. The powder resists at first, clumping together, but slowly it surrenders, dissolving into a thick, smooth, white cream. The consistency is like nothing you've ever seen before, thicker than milk, smoother than clay. It is unequivocal, brilliantly white. It looks like liquid porcelain. The cost of this little pot was more than just a few coins. In cities like Venice, where its production was a major industry, the Ceruse trade was big business. A fun but grim fact: the men who worked in the lead factories, the Ceruse were known to have short, miserable lives. They suffered from tremors, paralysis, and what was known as saturnine madness. Their health was sacrificed to produce the very product that would then go on to slowly poison the wealthy women who bought it. The price of beauty was being paid at every step of the supply chain, from the factory floor to the noblewoman's vanity. You are, of course, blissfully unaware of the Ceruse. Your concern is the price you paid, and the investment you are about to make in your own future. You think of Lady Annalise's serene face, of Eleanor's confident gaze. You think of the way men seem to orbit them, captivated. That is what you are buying. You are not just buying a cosmetic, you are buying a new identity. The historical debate, here is a subtle one: was the high cost of Ceruse purely due to its complex manufacturing process and the difficulty of smuggling it? Or was the price intentionally kept high to maintain its exclusivity? Many historians argue the latter. The high price was part of the appeal. It acted as a gatekeeper. If everyone could afford it, it would lose its power as a status symbol. The fact that it was expensive and hard to get was not a bug, it was a feature. It ensured that only the truly wealthy and determined could join the ranks of the porcelain's kind elite. You sit before your polished silver mirror, the flickering candlelight making the shadows dance in your room. Your heart is hammering. You've barred the door. You've laid out a clean linen cloth. The bowl of white paste sits before you, gleaming. This is the moment of truth. You look at your reflection one last time, at the face you were born with, the healthy flush in your cheeks, the faint freckles. You are about to erase it all. You are about to paint over the canvas God gave you with one of your own making. You dip your fingers into the cool, thick paste. The texture is strange, both silky and heavy, like a dense, cold cream. It feels alien against your skin. This is your first real investment in the cutthroat world of courtly beauty. You spent the money. You've taken the risk to acquire it. And now you're about to commit. The financial cost was a barrier to entry. But the real price is the step you're about to take, the step of trusting this strange, alchemical substance more than you trust your own skin. You lift your fingers to your face, the white paste glistening in the candlelight. The point of no return is inches from your skin. You take a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of beeswax and the faint, sharp tang of the Ceruse. Then, you touch your fingers to your cheek. The paste is cool, almost shockingly so, against the warmth of your skin. It's a strange, cleaning sensation. You begin to spread it, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. It's thicker than you expected. Less like a wash and more like a plaster. You have to work it into the skin, smoothing it over every surface, every pore, every tiny imperfection. Your movements are slow and deliberate, like an artist painting on a priceless canvas. You cover your cheeks, your forehead, your nose, your chin. You work your way up to the delicate skin just below your eyes and out to your hairline. The process is a ritual. It requires patience and a steady hand. You are not just applying makeup, you are constructing a new face. The sensation is bizarre. As the paste begins to dry, you feel a slight tightening, as if a fine, cool mask is shrinking to fit your features. It doesn't feel like a part of you. It feels like an addition, a layer of armor. You avoid your mouth and your eyelids, leaving them bare for now. You've seen how the porcelain ladies color their lips and eyes, and that will be a separate, later step. For now, the goal is the canvas. The perfect, unblemished white. The work is surprisingly intimate. You are more focused on the geography of your own face than you have ever been. You learn the exact curve of your jaw, the small dip above your lip, the plane of your forehead. You are both the artist and the subject. A weird little detail from history: the application wasn't always done with fingers. Well, few women might use a powder puff, which was often made from soft fur or feathers, or a fine linen or silk cloth. They would also use special tools, almost like tiny spatulas, to ensure an even coating. The goal was to create a layer that was as smooth and seamless as possible, with no brush strokes or fingerprints to betray its artifice. This process could take a significant amount of time, a daily ritual of self-creation that could last for an hour or more. As you work, you realize how utterly this stuff changes your sensory experience of the world. The slight breeze from the crack under the door feels different on your cheeks, dulled by the Ceruse layer. You can't feel the familiar warmth of your own skin under your fingertips, only the cool, smooth surface of the lead paste. It's isolating. You are sealing yourself off from the world, one square inch at a time. Historians often debate the psychological impact of wearing such a mask. Did it make women feel more powerful and confident? Or did it create a profound sense of dissociation? A disconnect from their own bodies and identities? The truth is likely different for every woman. A complex cocktail of empowerment and imprisonment. For some, it might have been a shield, a way to hide their true feelings behind a serene, unreadable facade in the politically treacherous environment of the court. For others, it may have become a trap, a source of constant anxiety about it cracking, smudging, or being revealed. You are beginning to understand both sides of that feeling. There's a thrilling sense of power in watching your old face disappear. The freckles vanish, the rosy flush is obliterated. Any hint of an evanescence is smoothed into a single, uniform shade of stark white. But there's also a creeping anxiety. What if you've done it wrong? What if it looks ridiculous? Finally, you are done. You lean back and survey your work in the polished silver of your mirror. The reflection that stares back is shocking. It's you, but it's not you. The shape of your face is the same. Your eyes are your own, but the person looking back at you seems older, more serious, and infinitely more formidable. The transformation is absolute. You look like a statue, a creature of myth. You look like Lady Annalise. The tightening sensation is more pronounced now as the mixture dries completely. It feels stiff. You try a small smile, and you can feel the mask pull at the corners of your mouth. A wide, spontaneous expression is now out of the question. You touch your cheek again. It's no longer skin. It feels like a smooth, cool, matte surface, like fine vellum or a polished stone. The ritual is complete. You have successfully erased yourself, and in your place, you have created a work of art. The question that lingers in the quiet of the room is whether this new creation is beautiful, or just monstrous. You're not sure you know the difference anymore. You can't stop looking at yourself. You turn your head from side to side, watching how the candlelight plays across the new, smooth planes of your face. It's mesmerizing. The murky, polished silver of your mirror, which once seemed to soften and obscure your flaws, now reflects a vision of stark, impossible perfection. The reflection is no longer a slightly disappointing version of you, it's an idealized being, a creature of pure form and color. This is the moment of seduction. This is the moment the poison really takes hold. Not in your bloodstream yet, but in your mind. The image in the mirror is so compelling, so powerful, that it instantly justifies every risk, every doubt, every coin spent. All the whispers of danger seem like distant, irrelevant noise compared to the glorious reality staring back at you. Your own face, the one you had just an hour ago, now seems like a vague, flawed memory. How could you have ever lived with it? You lean in closer, your eyes wide. The Ceruse has created a perfect canvas, but it's a blank one. You look pale, yes, but also a little ghostly. You remember the other ladies. They weren't just white, they had accents, a touch of color to create contrast. You rummage through a small wooden box on your vanity where you keep a few simple cosmetics. You find a small pot of ointment made from beeswax and orchante root, a plant that produces a deep red pigment. You've used it before to give your lips a subtle, healthy tint. Now, you apply it with a new purpose. Against the stark white of the Ceruse, the red is electric. It's no longer a natural enhancement, it's a bold, deliberate statement. You carefully trace the line of your lips, making them a perfect, blood-red Cupid's bow. The contrast is breathtaking. You look like a figure from an illuminated manuscript, brought to life. Then, you take a bit of salt, mixed with a little oil to make a dark paste, and carefully darken your eyebrows and the edges of your eyelids. It makes your eyes, the only part of you that remains truly alive and uncovered, seem enormous and luminous in your white face. Now the transformation is complete. You are no longer just a statue, you are a decorated icon. The face in the mirror is a masterpiece of artifice, and you are its creator. This feeling of control is intoxicating. You were born with a face you didn't choose, a face dictated by genetics and circumstance. Now, you have remade it to your own specifications. You have seized control of your own beauty. A strange little detail of the era, this desire for a completely artificial look extended to other features, where you're darkening your eyebrows. Some women, especially in Renaissance Italy, were plucking their hairlines to create a higher, more intellectual forehead. They would pluck their eyebrows into thin, high arches, or sometimes remove them entirely, only to draw them back on in a more fashionable position. The goal wasn't to look natural, it was to look like a deliberate, stylized work of art. Natural was for peasants. The psychological hook is now firmly set. The mirror has become your co-conspirator, your greatest admirer. It shows you the person you want to be. And the more you look, the more you believe in her. The historians debate over whether these women were victims or agents of their own beauty standards is playing out inside your head. Are you a victim of the oppressive courtly culture that demands this ridiculous paleness, or are you a savvy operator, cleverly using the tools at your disposal to climb the social ladder sitting here, in front of your mirror? You feel unequivocally like the latter. You feel powerful, strategic, and utterly in control. You stand up and walk around your small room, trying to get used to the feeling of the mask on your face. It's stiff, and you're constantly aware of it. You practice the small, serene smile you've seen on Lady Eleanor. You practice turning your head slowly and deliberately. You are learning a new physical vocabulary, the language of the porcelain doll. It feels restrictive, but it also feels like a kind of power. Your face is now a shield. No one can read your true feelings. No blush of embarrassment or flush of anger can betray you. You are serene, unreadable, and perfect. As you finally get ready for bed, the thought of washing it off is unbearable. To undo this masterpiece, to go back to being the freckled, rosy-cheeked girl from this morning, it feels like a regression, a defeat. So you don't. You decide to sleep in it. You will protect it through the night. You lie down carefully on your pillow, flat on your back, trying not to disturb the fragile perfection you've created. As you drift off to sleep, The last image in your mind is your own reflection, the face of a beautiful, powerful stranger. You have fallen in love with a mask, not realizing that the price of wearing it is to let it slowly fuse with your skin. The next evening, the great hall is ablaze with the light of 100 candles and 2 enormous bonfires crackling in the hearths at either end. It's the celebration of a minor saint's day, which is really just an excuse for the dupe to show off his wealth and for everyone else to engage in the serious business of courtly life gossip, intrigue, and social maneuvering. Tonight, you are not just an attendee, you are a participant armed with a new and powerful weapon. Walking into the hall feels completely different. Normally, you'd try to find a quiet corner to observe from the sidelines. Tonight, you pause deliberately in the arched doorway, allowing the light to fall fully on you. You hold your head high, your expression set in that serene, placid mask you practiced. For a few seconds, nothing happens. The noise of the crowd, the music from the gallery, the clatter of wine goblets, all continue as normal. Then, you see the first flicker of recognition. A knight, deep in conversation, stops mid-sentence, his eyes fixed on you. The lady he was talking to turns to see what has captured his attention. Her mouth falls slightly open, and then it spreads. A ripple of silence, a chain reaction of turned heads and widening eyes. It's as if a spell has been cast. Conversations falter. People who have known you for years, who have seen you every day at meals and in the gardens, look at you as if they are seeing you for the first time. You are a walking spectacle. You are no longer the quiet, pleasant girl with the nice but unremarkable face. You are a vision. You begin to walk, slowly and deliberately, through the crowd. A path seems to clear before you. The men, their faces ruddy with wine, bow deeper than they usually do. Their eyes linger on you with a mixture of awe and desire. The women are another story. The naturals, the ones with unpainted faces, look at you with a combination of envy and suspicion. Their whispers follow you like the rustle of dry leaves. But the porcelain women, the white ghosts of the court, give you a look of silent, knowing acknowledgement. Lady Eleanor catches your eye from across the room and gives you a slow, almost imperceptible nod of approval. You have been initiated. You are one of them now. This is the immediate, intoxicating payoff. Mainstream history is filled with accounts of how beauty could translate directly into social and political power for women in this era. For a woman of noble birth, her primary path to influence was through a strategic marriage, and beauty, especially this specific, high-status form of beauty, was the single greatest asset in attracting the most desirable suitor, a man with more land, a higher title, greater influence at court. Your face was quite literally your fortune. What you are experiencing tonight is the first return on your investment. A young lord named Sir Alaric, a man with significant landholdings whom you've only ever admired from a distance, approaches you. He has never spoken to you before. Tonight, he takes your hand, his touch reverent. "My lady," he says, his voice slow and captivated. "You are a pearl in a sea of garnets tonight. The moonlight itself would be jealous of your radiance." The compliment is flowery and ridiculous, but it's a currency you now gladly accept. You give him the small, practiced smile. "You are too kind, Sir Alaric," you murmur, your voice steady and calm, betraying none of the triumphant roaring in your ears. A curious little tidbit about this performance: the voice was part of the act. The serene, placid face was often accompanied by a soft, low, and measured speaking voice. It was all part of the package of aristocratic control and refinement. A loud, boisterous woman was seen as common and unladylike. The mask on your face helped you with this. The stiffness reminds you not to speak too quickly, not to laugh too loudly. It's a physical constraint that enforces the desired social behavior. Throughout the evening, you are the undeniable center of attention. You dance with the most important men. You are brought the finest wine. You are the subject of constant, fascinated observation. The power is dizzying. You feel seen, valued, and admired in a way you have never been before. The memory of your old face, your old self, is fading fast, like a dream upon waking. This is who you are now. This powerful, beautiful, untouchable creature. Historians still debate the full extent to which this kind of cosmetic transformation was a conscious strategy versus a genuine belief in its aesthetic appeal. Was it a cold, calculated move, or did women like you genuinely believe this artificial look was the epitome of beauty? The answer, as you are experiencing it, is both. You are consciously aware of the social advantage it gives you, but you are also, on a deeper level, completely seduced by the image in the mirror. You genuinely believe you look more beautiful. The strategy and the belief have merged into one. As the night draws to a close, you retreat to your chambers, your head swimming with wine and compliments. The adrenaline of your success is a potent drug. You look in your polished silver mirror, at the face that brought you so much triumph. The red of your lips is slightly smeared, and you can see a tiny crack in the white enamel near your eye from a smile that was perhaps a little too wide. But it doesn't matter. It worked. The risk paid off spectacularly. You have tasted power, and it is the sweetest thing you have ever known. The mask on your face is no longer just a cosmetic. It's a crown. The weeks following the banquet are a whirlwind. The world has rearranged itself around your new face. So Alaric, the handsome and wealthy lord, becomes your most ardent pursuer. He sends you poems terribly written, but the sentiment is what counts. He brings you gifts: a small songbird in a gilded cage, a soft leather-bound book of romances. Before, you were one of several dozen eligible young women at court, facing the crowd. Now, you are his sole focus. Your family is ecstatic. Your father, who once worried about securing a decent match for you, now walks with a new swagger, fielding inquiries and speaking of dowries with a confidence he never had before. Your status among the women has changed, too. The porcelain dolls, once a remote and intimidating clique, now draw you into their circle. You sit with them during embroidery sessions. Your conversations a quiet murmur of courtly secrets. They teach you the finer points of maintaining the mask, how to mix the ceruse with a drop of lavender oil to better scent it, how to use a soft hare's foot to buff the surface to a perfect, seamless sheen. You trade secrets about which merchants had the purest supply and which ones dilute their product with chalk or bone meal. It's a sisterhood of artifice, bound by a shared secret and a shared ambition. This is the power you crave, and it extends beyond just attracting a husband. You find that people listen to you more when you offer an opinion, even on something as trivial as the arrangement of flowers in the chapel. It has given more weight. Your beauty has conferred upon you an aura of authority. This isn't just a flight of fancy, it's a world-documented historical phenomenon. In many courtly societies, beauty was intertwined with concepts of virtue and wisdom. A beautiful exterior was thought to reflect a noble and pure interior. It's a deeply flawed logic, a cognitive bias as old as time. But in this world, it's an operational truth. You are leveraging it to its fullest extent. A little-known fact about this beauty premium is how it could affect even legal and financial matters for women. While a noblewoman couldn't typically run a business or hold public office, her influence within the family and through her husband was immense. A beautiful wife who was the toast of the court was a significant asset to her husband's career and social standing. Her favor could open doors, her disapproval could close them. Historians still uncover letters and documents suggesting that powerful men were often swayed by the soft power wielded by their beautiful, well-regarded wives, making these women indirect but crucial players in the game of politics and power. You are starting to feel this power in small ways. You convince your father to hire a new musician for the household, a young man with more talent than the old, tone-deaf flute player. You subtly influence your mother's decisions about which families to invite to private dinners. Each small victory, each instance of your will being enacted, is a thrill. It reinforces the central lesson you have learned: your face is the key that unlocks the world. The mask has become your uniform. You feel naked without it. The morning ritual of application is no longer a nervous experiment, it's a necessity. As vital as getting dressed, the face in the mirror is no longer a stranger, it is you. The you that existed before. The girl with the freckles. Feels like a different person, someone you shed like a snake sheds its skin. But the debate that historians have is whether this power was real or illusory. Was it true agency, or was it a gilded cage you are gaining influence? Yes. But you are also becoming a prisoner to the very thing that gives you power. You are trapped in a rigid routine of application and maintenance. You are trapped by the physical constraints of the mask. Unable to laugh freely or show genuine emotion. You are trapped by the constant, low-level fear of it being damaged or discovered. Are you wielding power, or are you simply a more valuable, more beautifully decorated object to be traded and possessed? For now, in the heady rush of your success, you don't care. The cage feels comfortable, and the bars are made of gold. You are winning the game. The wedding negotiations with Sir Alaric's family are proceeding smoothly. Your future seems assured. A glittering path laid out before you. The Ceruse has not just given you a new face, it has given you a new life. One far grander than you could have ever imagined. You feel invincible, as if you've outsmarted the system, as if you found the cheat code to life itself. The poison is working its magic. Then for now, it feels only like a blessing. You see no reason to ever stop. The transition is insidious. What began as a tool for special occasions, a weapon to the ballroom, has now become a daily necessity. The line between the mask and your face has started to blur. Not just on your skin, but in your mind. Waking up in the morning is now the worst part of your day. You have to face the mirror before the ritual begins. You have to see the original you. And you hate her. The girl who stares back at you from a polished silver looks plain, blotchy, and frighteningly vulnerable. Her freckles seem like blemishes, her natural skin tone like a sign of sickness rather than health. The features you once knew as your own now seem alien and inadequate. You find yourself averting your eyes, hurrying to begin the process of erasure, of correction. The application of the Ceruse is no longer about creating a beautiful illusion, it's about banishing an ugly reality. This psychological dependency is the poison's second front. The lead is beginning its slow, silent work on your body, but the Ceruse has already conquered your mind. Your sense of self-worth is now completely fused with the artificial face you create each morning. On the rare occasions you are within your own private chambers without the mask on, you feel a profound sense of anxiety and shame, as if you are undressed in public. You refuse to let even your handmaiden, Alice, see you in this natural state. You wake before she enters and go to bed only after she has left, ensuring the mask is the only face she ever sees. This creates a strange, lonely existence. You are more popular and admired than ever in the public sphere, yet you are more isolated than ever in your private life. You are guarding a secret, and that secret is your own face. The effort is constant. At meals, you eat carefully, taking small, deliberate bites to avoid smearing your painted lips. When you drink, you sip cautiously. You are always conscious of the weather. A sudden rain shower is a catastrophe. A humid day that might cause you to sweat is a source of deep anxiety. A strange but true historical detail, this led to the popularization of certain accessories. Ornate hand-held fans were not just for cooling off, they were essential tools for shielding the face from sun or rain, and for discreetly hiding one's face while whispering or laughing to prevent cracking the makeup. Parasols became a must-have for any outdoor excursion. These weren't just fashion statements, they were pieces of personal protective equipment for a woman's most valuable and fragile asset, her cosmetic facade. You are becoming a master of this constricted life. You carry a small, polished silver mirror in a velvet pouch at all times, retreating to quiet corners to check for cracks or smudges. Your life is now a performance, and it has no intermission. The mask is no longer just a mask, it's a new, more demanding skin that requires constant vigilance. Historians are still debating the long-term psychological effects of this kind of deep-seated cosmetic dependency. Did it lead to identity disorders? Did it exacerbate feelings of anxiety and depression? It's impossible to diagnose from centuries away, but contemporary accounts are filled with descriptions of aristocratic women suffering from melancholy, vapors, or nervous afflictions. While these were catch-all terms for a host of ailments, it's hard not to wonder how much of it was fueled by the constant, grinding pressure of maintaining an artificial self, and perhaps the dawning, terrifying realization that they could no longer remember who they were without it. You experienced this one afternoon while looking at a miniature portrait of yourself, painted a year ago, before the Ceruse. The artist was skilled. He captured your likeness well. He painted the rosy cheeks, the light in your eyes, the scattering of freckles. You remember being pleased with it at the time. Now, looking at it, you feel a profound sense of alienation. You don't recognize that girl. She seems naive, simple, and painfully common. You feel a surge of pity and contempt for her. You close the locket and put it away, burying that version of yourself for good. The addiction is complete. You need the Ceruse not just to be beautiful to others, but to be acceptable to yourself. The compliments from Sir Alaric and the admiring glances at court are no longer just a bonus. They are the validation you require to feel whole. You are chasing the high of that first night, the thrill of your stunning debut, but it's a diminishing return. It now takes more effort, more vigilance, just to maintain the status quo, just to feel normal. The mask is no longer a tool of empowerment. It is a crutch, and you have forgotten how to walk without it. It starts subtly, a small, persistent itch on your jawline that you try to ignore. You're sitting through a sermon in the castle chapel, the air thick and still. You discreetly press your fingers to the spot, trying to relieve the sensation without disturbing the white surface. But the itch remains, a tiny, annoying firefly of a feeling under the mask. Later that night, when you finally undertake the difficult process of removing the Ceruse, you see the first sign of trouble. Removing the mask is an ordeal in itself. It's not water-soluble. You can't just splash your face and have it melt away. It requires a combination of oils, scraping, and harsh soaps. You use a mixture of almond oil and a strong, lye-based soap to break down the paste. It's a messy, unpleasant process. As you wipe away the last of the white sludge, your skin feels raw and tender. And there, on your jawline, is a small patch of red, irritated skin. It's dry and slightly flaky. Your first reaction is not alarm, but annoyance. You attribute it to the harsh soap, or perhaps you left the paste on for too long. You soothe it with a bit of lanolin balm and think nothing more of it. You tell yourself it's a small price to pay. After all, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs, and you can't create a flawless complexion without a little bit of irritation. You simply apply the Ceruse again the next morning, a slightly thicker layer over the red patch to ensure it's completely hidden. But the itch doesn't go away. It spreads. A few days later, you feel it along your cheekbones. Then a persistent dryness appears on your forehead. Your skin, which was once so healthy and balanced, is becoming reactive and angry. It's fighting back against the foreign substance you slather on it every day. This is the first, insidious stage of the lead's direct dermatological effect. Lead is a heavy metal, and it's fundamentally toxic to human cells. When applied directly to the skin, it damages the cells, disrupts the natural moisture barrier, and can cause severe contact dermatitis. You are, in essence, giving yourself a chemical burn in slow motion. A curious but grim piece of trivia from the history of medicine, because this was such a common problem among the aristocracy. A whole sub-industry of remedies emerged to treat the skin damage caused by lead cosmetics. These remedies were often just as bizarre and dangerous as the Ceruse itself. Women would apply poultices of bread soaked in mercury water, or bombs containing sulfur or arsenic, believing they were healing the skin. In reality, they were often just layering one poison on top of another, creating a vicious cycle of damage and treatment. You haven't resorted to those measures yet. For now, your strategy is denial and concealment. You ignore the warning signs. You dismiss the growing discomfort as a temporary inconvenience. The approval you receive when wearing the mask is still far more compelling than the discomfort you feel when you take it off. But the physical warning signs are not just on your skin. You start to feel a persistent, low-grade fatigue. You wake up feeling tired, even after a full night's sleep. You attribute it to the excitement of your courtship with Sir Alaric, the late-night court functions. You blame the rich food, the wine, anything but the one new, constant factor in your life. The historical debate among toxicologists and historians is about the primary route of poisoning. Was it absorption through the skin? Or was it ingestion? The answer is almost certainly both. While the skin does provide a barrier, lead compounds can be absorbed through it, especially if the skin is broken or irritated, which the Ceruse itself ensures. But a more direct route was accidental ingestion. You touch your face, then later you touch your food, you lick your lips. The powder becomes airborne during application and you breathe it in. Every day, you are delivering a small, steady dose of heavy metal into your system, through your skin, your mouth, and your lungs. You are completely oblivious to this. The concept of chronic, low-dose poisoning is centuries away from being understood. In your world, poison is something swift and dramatic, a few drops in a goblet of wine. A sudden, violent illness. The idea that your beloved beauty secret could be a silent, patient killer is beyond the realm of imagination. One evening, you are getting ready for bed, wiping away the mouse. The red patches on your skin are larger now, more inflamed. They look angry. For the first time, a genuine flicker of fear pierces your denial. You stare at your damaged skin in the candlelight, and a cold thought enters your mind. What if this doesn't go away? The fear is quickly suppressed. It has to go away. It will be better tomorrow. You just need to be more careful. Maybe use a gentler soap. You have to believe it will get better. Because the alternative, giving up the Ceruse, is simply unthinkable. That would mean giving up Sir Alaric, giving up your status, giving up the powerful, beautiful woman you've become, and that is a price you are not willing to pay. Not yet. The problem with the tiny red patches is that they don't go away. They get worse. The irritation is no longer just a faint blush of red, it's turning into a landscape of blemishes. Small bumps and rough, scaly patches begin to appear on your cheeks and forehead. Your skin, which was once your greatest source of shame simply for its healthy color, is now becoming genuinely unsightly. The lead is systematically destroying your skin's texture and integrity. The very thing you used to achieve perfection is now creating irreversible imperfection. This is the terrible paradox, the cruel joke at the heart of the Ceruse tragedy. It creates the very problem it claims to solve. Your skin becomes so damaged that you are now completely dependent on the Ceruse to hide the ruin it has caused. The mask is no longer a choice for social advancement, it's a desperate necessity to appear normal. You find yourself locked in a vicious, escalating cycle. In the morning, you examine your raw, angry skin in the mirror with a sense of panic. You see the blotches, the dry flakes, the beginnings of what looks like a permanent trash. Your only solution is to apply a thicker layer of the white paste. You become more meticulous, more skilled, a true master of spackling over the cracks in your own facade. You learn to work the paste into the uneven patches, to build it up in certain areas to create the illusion of a smooth surface. Your morning ritual, once a 20-minute affair, now stretches to an hour or more. It's a painstaking, high-stakes act of reconstruction. The relief you feel when the mask is finally in place is immense. The damage is hidden. You are beautiful again, but the relief is short-lived, replaced by annoying anxiety. The thickened layer of Ceruse feels heavier, more constricting, and you know, on some deep, unspoken level, that you are only making the problem worse. You are suffocating your skin, compounding the chemical damage with a thicker dose of the poison. A strange and specific detail that medical historians have noted is that chronic lead exposure can lead to a condition called saturnine gout, causing painful joints. But on the skin, it also inhibits the production of collagen and elastin. Essentially, the Ceruse was accelerating the aging process. The women who used it to maintain a youthful, flawless appearance were, ironically, causing their skin to lose its natural elasticity and structure far more quickly than it otherwise would have. They were trading short-term illusion for long-term ruin. You start to notice the cost of your materials increasing. You are going through your expensive pot of Venetian Ceruse at an alarming rate. You have to send for more. Using your allowance and selling a small piece of jewelry your grandmother left you to cover the cost. The secrecy around the purchase becomes more stressful. It's no longer a one-time indulgence, but a continuous, expensive habit you must feed. Historians debate whether the women caught in this cycle were aware of the trap. Did they connect the worsening of their skin to the product itself? Some almost certainly did. There are anecdotal accounts and satirical plays from the period that mock women for plastering their faces and hint at the ugliness beneath. But admitting it, even to oneself, would have been psychologically devastating. To admit that the source of your power and identity is also the source of your ruin is a truth too terrible to face. So you engage in a powerful form of cognitive dissonance. The problem isn't the Ceruse, the problem is your own weak, problematic skin, which requires more Ceruse to control it. One afternoon, you are sitting with Lady Eleanor and two other ladies in a sunlit garden. A.B. buzzes lazily past. Lady Eleanor raises her fan to shield her face. A common, reflexive gesture, but in that moment, she turns to you and whispers, so quietly that only you can hear, "The sun is so cruel to the complexion, isn't it?" There's a strange, weary undertone in her voice. You look at her, really look at her, and for the first time, you see the subtle signs you now know so well in yourself. The thickness of the paste around her nose, the way the light catches the edge of the white layer at her hairline, revealing a hint of the irritated skin beneath. You realize with a jolt that she is not a serene goddess. She is a fellow prisoner. She is trapped in the same cycle as you. You see the faint lines of anxiety around her eyes, the only part of her face that can still express true emotion. There is no triumph in her gaze, only a deep, abiding weariness. The sisterhood you felt you had joined now feels less like an exclusive club and more like a support group for the damned. You give her a small, conspiratorial nod. "Yes, my lady," you murmur back. It is cruel indeed. In that shared moment of veiled truth, you feel a flicker of camaraderie, but it's drowned out by a much larger wave of cold, creeping dread. You are all on the same path, and you are beginning to suspect, for the very first time, where it might lead. The warnings from your body are no longer confined to your skin. They are becoming more systemic, more insidious. The latest sign is both bizarre and terrifying. It appears in your mouth. You've been noticing a strange, metallic taste for a few weeks, a faint, coppery tang that you can't get rid of. No matter how much you rinse your mouth with spiced wine or chew on cloves, you dismissed it as a passing fancy, an imbalance of your humors. But then you notice something else. One morning, while cleaning your teeth with a linen cloth and a paste of ground sage, you lean close to your mirror to inspect your work, and you see it, a faint, dark line on your gums, just above your front teeth. It's a thin, bluish-purple stain, almost like a fine thread of ink has been drawn along the edge where your teeth meet your gums. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't bleed. It's just there, a strange, unnatural discoloration. You scrub at it frantically, but it doesn't budge. It's not a stain on the surface, it seems to be in the gum tissue itself. Panic, cold and sharp, pricks at you. What is this? A sign of decay, a curse? You have never heard of such a thing. You keep it a secret, of course. To admit to any form of physical ailment, especially one so strange and unsightly, would be a social disaster. You learn to smile with your lips closed, to speak without opening your mouth too wide, adding another layer of constraint to your already constricted life. What you are seeing is a classic textbook symptom of heavy metal poisoning, a clinical sign so specific that it would later be named the Burton line after the doctor who formerly described it in the 19th century. This is one of those fascinatedly grim little historical facts that connects your experience directly to modern medical knowledge. The line is caused by a reaction between circulating lead in your bloodstream and the hydrogen sulfide produced by bacteria in your mouth. This reaction forms lead sulfide, which is then deposited in the gum tissue as a dark, insoluble precipitate. It's a literal line of poison, drawn inside your own body. For you, it's a terrifying mystery. It's a physical manifestation of the fact that the poison is no longer just sitting on your skin, it has breached the gates. It is inside you, circulating in your blood, making its presence known in the most intimate parts of your body. The metallic taste in your mouth is the lead itself, being excreted into your saliva. Your own body is trying to expel the poison, and this is how it's telling you. Historians and medical experts are still in awe of how perfectly lead poisoning mimics other, more natural diseases of the era. The symptoms are vague and varied: fatigue, abdominal pain, irritability, loss of appetite. All of these could easily be blamed on melancholy, bad food, or a dozen other common ailments. But the Burton line is different. It's a specific, undeniable fingerprint of the poison. It's a pity that the knowledge to read that fingerprint was still centuries in the future. For the women experiencing it, it was just another inexplicable part of their body's slow, mysterious betrayal. Your general health continues its slow decline. The fatigue is now a constant companion, a heavy cloak you can't shrug off. You have persistent, nagging pains in your stomach, a dull ache that comes and goes without reason. You lose your appetite. The rich, spiced foods of the court, which you once loved, now seem nauseating. You push food around your plate, claiming a delicate constitution. Sir Roderick looks at you with concern, his brow furrowed. "You are looking so wonderfully pale, my lady," he says, meaning it as the highest compliment. "But you must eat. We cannot have you fading away entirely." Euphrasis' small, closed-lit smile. Oh, the irony. He is complimenting a symptom of the very disease that is making you waste away. Your paleness is no longer just from the sea. I use it's also the pallor of anemia, another side effect of lead poisoning, as the metal interferes with your body's ability to produce red blood cells. You are becoming, in truth, the pale, sickly, delicate creature that the fashion of the day idealizes. You are achieving the perfect look, but it is no longer an illusion. It is becoming your reality. The debate among historians is how much of this was an open secret. Is it possible that doctors of the era made the connection? The evidence is thin. Medical knowledge was still deeply rooted in the theory of the four humors, and treatments were aimed at rebalancing them through bleeding, purging, and prescribing herbal concoctions. A doctor examining you would likely diagnose an excess of black bile, leading to melancholy, and prescribe a change in diet, or perhaps a laxative made of mercury and other poison. The idea of an external, environmental cause like a cosmetic was simply not part of their diagnostic toolkit. You are on your own, trapped in a body that is sending you clear, terrifying signals that you have no way of interpreting. The blue line on your gums is a secret you carry every day, a constant, silent reminder that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. You are a walking, talking embodiment of a medical mystery, a perfect storm of cultural ideals and silent toxicity. And the machine of your social ascent keeps churning forward, pushing you toward a grand wedding, even as the foundations of your own body are slowly, silently crumbling. The court is a small, insular world, and its primary currency is information. Whispers travel faster than a royal decree, and lately, the whispers have centered on Lady Isabel, the wife of a minor baron from the north. She was one of the most envied of the porcelain women, her complexion famously, flawlessly white, But you haven't seen her at court for over a month. The official story is that she has retired to her husband's country estate to recover from a bout of nervous exhaustion. But the unofficial stories, the ones told in hushed tones behind fans and in shadowed window seats, are far more alarming. You are sitting with your small circle of Ceruse sisters, your embroidery hoops lying still in your laps. The conversation is low and anxious. I heard from her chambermaid. One lady murmurs, her eyes darting around nervously, that she can no longer keep food down, and her hands tremble so much she cannot hold a goblet. Another leans in closer. My cousin saw her before she left, she said. She said her hair was coming out in clumps. They had to order 3 new wigs from London. A third lady shivers, pulling her shawl tighter around her shoulders despite the warmth of the room. They say she is flighty. She forgets names, conversations. She flew into a rage at her husband for moving a book on a table. You listen to this litany of symptoms, and a cold dread settles in your stomach. Fatigue, nausea, tremors, hearing loss, confusion and irritability. Each symptom is a chilling echo of the smaller, quieter ones you've been trying to ignore in yourself. The persistent tiredness, the metallic taste, the ache in your gut. It's like you're hearing a prophecy of your own future. You discreetly clench your own hands in your lap, willing them to be still. This is a key aspect of how historical health crises unfolded. Information spread, not through public health announcements, but through personal anecdote and gossip. This network of female correspondence and conversation was a powerful, if often inaccurate, way of tracking the health and well-being of the community. It was a grassroots epidemiology, based on rumor and observation. You try to dismiss it. It is surely just jealous gossip. You say, your voice sounding a little too loud, a little too firm, Lady Isabel has always been of a delicate constitution. The other women nod, eager to agree, to accept the comforting lie. It's easier to believe that Isabel is uniquely weak than to confront the terrifying possibility that you are all using the same poison chalice. To admit her sickness is caused by the Ceruse would be to admit that you are all on the same path, simply at different stages of the journey. A weird little fact about the social dynamics of the time when a noblewoman fell ill with a mysterious ailment. It could sometimes be politically advantageous for her rivals. It created a power vacuum. The sick lady's influence would wane. Her suitors or allies might look elsewhere, and her position as a beauty would be up for grabs. So, while some of the gossip was born of genuine concern, some of it was undoubtedly tinged with a cruel sense of schadenfreude opportunism. The conversation eventually turns to other, safer topics, but the spectre of Lady Isabel hangs in the air. Later that day, you see her husband, the Baron, walking alone in the gardens. His shoulders are slumped. His face, usually ruddy and cheerful, is grey with worry. The sight of him, so visibly distressed, makes the rumors feel terrifyingly real. This is not the work of jealous rivals. This is a genuine tragedy unfolding just out of sight. The historical debate here centers on what we might call willful ignorance. How much did these women really know? And how much did they choose not to know? It's likely that on some level, many of them made the connection. They saw their friends and rivals who used the same products fall ill with the same symptoms. But the social and psychological pressure to continue was so immense that they pushed the knowledge down, burying it under layers of denial and rationalization. It's the same psychology that makes people ignore warnings on cigarette packs. The immediate reward feels more real and more important than the distant, abstract risk. That night, you can't sleep. You lie awake, staring into the darkness, cataloguing your own symptoms. The fatigue that feels like a heavy weight on your limbs, the blue line on your gums, the secret mark of your decay, the raw, angry skin under the mask you've just removed. You think of Lady Isabel, wasting away in some cold country house, her hair falling out, her mind clouded. Is that your future? The price of your beauty, of your perfect match with Sir Alaric, suddenly seems terrifyingly high. For the first time, you seriously consider stopping. The thought is both liberating and paralyzing. To stop would mean revealing your damaged skin. It would mean facing the world with a blotchy, ruined face. It would mean the end of your engagement, the end of your status, the end of the powerful woman you've become. It would be a social death. And so you are faced with an impossible choice: a slow, secret, physical death, or a swift and public social one. As the first light of dawn creeps into your room, you are no closer to an answer. But the seed of true, profound fear has been planted, and you know it will not go away. The metallic taste is getting stronger. It's a constant companion now, a ghostly film on your tongue that even the strongest spices can't erase. It's the first thing you notice when you wake up and the last thing you taste before you fall into a restless sleep. Food has become a trial. The rich stews, the roasted meats, the sweet pastries of the courtly table all taste vaguely of copper and decay. Your appetite, once healthy, has shriveled. You feel a persistent, low-grade nausea that saps your strength and your will. You are growing thinner. Your magnificent gowns, once tailored to fit you perfectly, now hang a little loose on your frame. People comment on it, but always through the bizarre, distorted lens of your era's beauty standards. My lady, you have such a wonderfully delicate and ethereal look about you, an older courtier remarks, like a spirit of the winter frost. You force a weak, closed lip smile. The blue line on your gums a secret shame. They are praising your decline. They are celebrating the visible signs of your slow poisoning. This collection of symptoms, the metallic taste, dysgCAA, loss of appetite, anorexia, and abdominal pain, is the classic gastrointestinal presentation of lead poisoning. The lead irritates the lining of the digestive tract and interferes with the enzymes that help you digest food. It's a systemic assault, starting from the inside out. You are, quite literally, starving in the midst of a feast. You find yourself plagued by a relentless, grinding fatigue. It's not the pleasant tiredness after a long day, it's a deep, cellular exhaustion. Climbing the winding stone staircase to your chamber leaves you breathless. Even the effort of sitting upright through a long dinner feels monumental. You begin to withdraw, making excuses to avoid dances or late-night gatherings. You claim a headache or a fit of the vapors. Vague female complaints that are easily accepted but which further isolate you. A curious little detail of medical history is that lead poisoning was often misdiagnosed in women as hysteria, a supposed psychological disorder unique to the female sex. The term came from the Greek word hystere, meaning uterus, and was based on the belief that a wandering womb could cause a vast array of symptoms, including anxiety, irritability, fainting, and loss of appetite. It was a convenient, catch-all diagnosis that effectively dismissed women's physical suffering as a product of their inherently unstable feminine nature. It's highly probable that many hysterics of the era were, in fact, suffering from chronic lead poisoning. Your mind, too, is feeling the effects. You have trouble concentrating. During conversations, you find your attention drifting, the words dissolving into a meaningless hum. You forget small things at first, like where you left your embroidery. But then more important things, like a promise you made to Sir Alaric to meet him in the garden. He is patient, attributing your forgetfuls to pre-wedding nerves. But you feel a rising tide of panic. You feel like your own mind is a room full of fog. This is the neurotorquis effect of the lead. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and wreaks havoc on the central nervous system. It disrupts neurotransistors, damages brain cells, and leads to what was often called saturnine encephalopathy, a toxic brain injury manifesting as memory loss, confusion, and personality changes. The flight innocent rages reported in the unfortunate Lady Isabel were not signs of a weak character, they were symptoms of her brain being poisoned. The historical debate here is a chilling one. Did anyone understand that these cosmetics could affect the mind, while the concept of neurotoxicity wasn't understood? There was a long-standing folk association between lead and madness. The phrase mad as a hatter comes from the mercury used in hat making, that the workers in lead industries, the miners, the smelters, The potters using lead glazes were also known for their high rates of insanity. It's possible that, on some level, there was an awareness that the spirits of Saturn could affect not just the body, but the spirit itself. Yet, the allure of the physical transformation was so powerful it overshadowed these dark associations. One evening, you are playing a game of chess with Sir Alaric. You have always been a keen player, able to think several moves ahead. Tonight, the pieces seem to blur together. You can't focus. You can't strategize. You make a foolish move, leaving your queen exposed. He takes it with a gentle, almost apologetic click of the ivory piece. He looks at you, his expression full of a tender concern that feels worse than any anger. "Are you quite well, my love?" he asked softly. "You seem a world away." You stare at the board, at your defeated king, and feel a wave of despair so profound it almost chokes you. You are losing at chess. You are losing your appetite, your strength, your memories. You are losing yourself, piece by piece. The metallic taste in your mouth seems to fill your throat, the taste of your own slow, inexorable decay. And the most terrifying part is that no one else can see it. They only see the beautiful, pale, perfect mask you present to the world. The next casualty is your hair. It was once your quiet pride, thick, long, and the color of dark honey. Now, it seems to have lost its life. It's dull, bristle, and dry. Then, it begins to fall out. At first, it's just a few extra strands caught in your comb. Nothing to be alarmed about. But soon, it becomes undeniable. When you wash it, a frightening amount of hair comes away in your hands, clogging the wash basin. When you wake, your pillow is strewn with dark strands. A sickening, weary clump comes away every time you brush it. You try to hide it. Of course, you part your hair differently, trying to arrange the thinning strands to cover the widening part. But there's no stopping it. The hair at your temples and along your hairline is receding, becoming thin and patchy. The skin underneath is pale and unhealthy looking, delayed, circulating through your bloodstream. You're starving your hair follicles of the nutrients they need to survive. It's another classic, brutal symptom of chronic heavy metal poisoning. Soon, hiding it becomes impossible. Your handmaiden, Alice, can no longer be kept in the dark. One morning, as she is helping you dress, she gasps. "My lady," she whispers, her voice filled with pity and fear. "Your hair." You see your own reflection in her wide, horrified eyes and feel a flush of shame, so hot it's almost painful. There's no point in denying it. You must now resort to the final, desperate solution of the afflicted noblewoman artifice. You send Alice on a secret, expensive errand to a merchant in the nearby town who deals in such things. She returns with a periwig, a construct of human hair, sorts from pure women, woven onto a mesh cap. It's a beautifully made thing. The hair close matched to your own original color, styled in the latest courtly fashion with elegant curls and braids. Putting it on for the first time is another moment of profound alienation. It feels heavy, hot, and itchy. But when you look in the mirror, the effect is transformative. The thinning patches are gone. You had a full, glorious head of hair again. It's another lie. Another layer in the elaborate construction of your public self. A fascinating little piece of trivia: wigs in this era were not just for the balding. They were major fashion statements. But they also served a practical purpose. They were easier to style and maintain than one's own hair. And they were a convenient way to deal with the rampant problem of head lice. For women like you, however, they served a third, more desperate purpose. They were a cosmetic solution for a medical problem, a way to hide the devastating effects of poison. You now wear the wig every day, along with the mask of CEO use. You are becoming more and more a composite being, a doll assembled from disparate, artificial parts. The mask, the wig, the painted lips, the carefully practiced gesture. Who is the real you anymore? Does she even exist? You begin to fear that if you were to strip away all the layers, there would be nothing left underneath but a sick, decaying stranger. This hair loss was a surprisingly common complaint among the users of Ceruse. In fact, some historians argue that the fashion for high foreheads wasn't just about plucking, it was a way of making a virtue out of a necessity. As women's hairlines naturally receded from the toxic effects of the lead they applied near it, the fashion simply adapted to frame this hair loss as an intentional, beautiful choice. It's a chilling example of how fashion can normalize and even celebrate the symptoms of disease. Your life is now governed by the fear of discovery. You dread a sudden gust of wind that might shift your wig. You avoid standing under bright, direct light that might reveal the mesh cap through the hair. Your relationship with Sir Alaric becomes a minefield of anxiety. You can no longer allow him the simple intimacy of running his fingers through your hair. You make excuses, claiming the intricate style is too delicate to be touched. He is patient and understanding, but you see the flicker of confusion in his eyes. The secrets you are keeping are building a wall between you, brick by invisible brick. One afternoon, you see a portrait of Queen Elizabeth I. She is a figure of immense power and admiration, the ultimate female icon of the age. You study her image, the stark white face, the red painted lips, the elaborate red wig sitting high on her plucked or balding forehead. She is the epitome of the fashion you are trying to emulate. You look at her, and for a moment, you feel a sense of kinship, of validation. If the great queen herself embraces this look, it must be right. It must be powerful. But a darker thought follows. You have heard the whispers about the queen's health. Too, her rotten, blackened teeth, her volatile temper, her own reliance on the Ceruse mask. Is it possible that the most powerful woman in the world is trapped in the same cage as you, that her iconic look is not just a statement of power, but a mask to hide the same decay? The thought is both terrifying and strangely comforting. It means you are not alone, but it also means that no amount of power or wealth can save you from the consequences of this fatal choice. You are whole. From the queen in her palace to you in your provincial castle, slowly being consumed by your own beauty. The collection of your symptoms, the stomach pains, the fatigue, the hair loss, the melancholy has become too pronounced for your family to ignore. They are no longer placated by your excuses of pre-wedding nerves. Your mother, her face etched with worry, insists on calling a physician. The thought fills you with a special kind of dread. Eye medical examination is a threat to all of your secrets. The blue line on your gums, the irritated skin beneath your mask, the thinning hair under your wig, you are a walking catalogue of evidence, and you are terrified of it being read. The physician arrives a few days later. H.E.S. an old, important-looking man with a solemn expression and robes that smell faintly of dried herbs and condescension. He is the most respected doctor in the region. He asks you a series of questions in a low, rumbling voice, looking not at you, but at your father. He barely acknowledges your answers. Your fatigue, he nods, is common in women of a delicate nature. Your loss of appetite, a sign of a nervous disposition, likely due to your impending nuptials. He then performs his examination, which is blessedly brief and non-invasive. He feels your pulse. He peers into your eyes. He asks to see your tongue. You show him, praying he doesn't look lower. At your gums, he doesn't. The idea of a detailed oral examination is not part of his standard practice. He never asks about your skin or your cosmetic habits. To him, what a woman puts on her face is a matter of vanity, not medicine. It exists in a completely separate realm from the workings of the four humors that govern her health. After a few minutes of thoughtful chin-stroking, he delivers his diagnosis. It is, as you both feared and expected, utterly and completely wrong. It is a clear case of female hysteria, complicated by an excess of melancholic humor. He announces to your parents. Her spirit is overwrought. The feminine constitution is fragile, you see, easily thrown out of balance by strong emotions. His prescribed treatment is a gallery of horrors. A perfect snapshot of the medical malpractice of the era. First, you are to be bled. A small incision will be made in your arm to drain away the excess blood that is contributing to your emotional state. Second, you are to take a purging tonic twice a day. He hands your mother a small bottle of dark, viscous liquid. It is, he explains, a mixture of rhubarb, senna, and a small, fortifying amount of mercury chloride. He wants to cleanse your system of the black bile that is causing your melancholy. Finally, he prescribes rest, a bland diet, and prayer. This encounter perfectly illustrates a mainstream historical fact: the medical establishment of the time was not equipped to deal with environmental toxicology, and it was deeply biased by misogynistic views of women's health. Your real, physical symptoms are being filtered through a lens of gender and superstition, and the diagnosis is a foregone conclusion. Your suffering is not physical, it's emotional. It's not a poison, it's your womanhood. A strange but true detail about the treatments: bloodletting was considered a cure-all for centuries. The theory was that it would rebalance the body's humors. In reality, for a patient like you who is already suffering from lead-induced anemia, draining more blood would only make you weaker, more fatigued, and more pale, ironically, helping you to achieve the fashionable look while pushing you closer to collapse. And prescribing a mercury tonic, it's like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. You would simply be adding a second, potent neurotoxin to your already struggling system. The historical debate here is not whether the doctors were wrong, they were. Spectacularly so, but whether any of them were charlatans. Did they know their treatments were ineffective or harmful? Most historians argue that they were not. They were acting in good faith, based on the best, albeit deeply flawed, scientific knowledge of their time. The physician who just prescribed bleeding on mercury for your lead poisoning likely believes he is doing everything in his power to save you. He is a product of his time, just as you are. After the doctor leaves, your family looks at you with a mixture of pity and renewed resolve. They now have a name for your suffering, and a prescribed course of action. They are relieved. You are horrified. You are being treated for a disease of the mind when your body is screaming in protest. You know, with a certainty that chills you to the bone, that these cures will only hasten your decline. That evening, you sit in your room, the bottle of mercury tonic on your vanity next to the pot of Venetian Ceruse. The two substances sit there like twin deities of destruction. One is the source of your public glory and your secret ruin. The other is its prescribed cure, a second poison in the guise of medicine. You feel utterly, completely alone, trapped between a deadly fashion and a deadly cure, with no one to turn to, no one who would ever understand the truth. Your illness has been named, and the name is a lie, and you are now expected to swallow that lie twice a day. In your moments of deepest despair, you find a strange and powerful role model, Queen Elizabeth I. You have that portrait of her, the one you saw before, a small copy done by a traveling artist. You keep it in a drawer, and you take it out when you are alone, staring at her image in the candlelight. She is the ultimate porcelain doll, the arch practitioner of the art you have tried to master. Her face is a perfect, impenetrable white mask. Her lips are a slash of red. Her elaborate wig is a crown of fire. She is magnificent, powerful, and untouchable. You cling to her example. The whispers about the Queen's health are rampant. Of course, everyone knows she suffers from terrible toothaches, that her teeth are black and stumps. They say her temper is fearsome and unpredictable. They say she is constantly battling mysterious illnesses, but she endures. She rules a nation. She commands armies. She faces down threats from across the sea. If she can do it, you think, then surely you can endure this. You are part of a secret sisterhood, with the Virgin Queen as your silent, unknowing high priestess. This is a mainstream historical point that continues to fascinate the public and academics, like Elizabeth I's iconic image. Her mask of youth was a carefully constructed piece of political propaganda. In an era where a monarch's physical health was synonymous with the health of the nation, She needed to project an image of timeless, ageless power. The thick layer of Venetian Ceruse hid the scars left by a severe bout of smallpox in her youth, and as she aged, it hid the wrinkles and lines that would have betrayed her mortality. Her white face wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a true-love statecraft. But what was the cost? This is where the historical debate still rages. For centuries, the romantic view was that she died of a broken heart, mourning the death of her favorite. But modern historians and medical experts, looking back at the contemporary accounts of her final years, see a different story. They see a textbook case of chronic lead poisoning. The accounts describe her final illness in harrowing detail: deep melancholy and depression, refusal to eat, memory loss, and periods of dementia where she would speak to ghosts. She refused to go to bed for weeks, remaining seated on cushions, believing that if she lay down, she would die. Were these the actions of a grief-stricken old woman, or the paranoid delusions of a brain ravaged by decades of exposure to neurotoxins? Many now argue for the latter. The very tool she used to project an image of immortal strength may have been the thing that ultimately destroyed her mind and body. She used poison to defy the ravages of time, only to have the poison ravage her in a much more profound way. A grim but fascinating detail from the accounts of her death said that her ladies-in-waiting but to put a piece of mirror in her room to show her how frail and wasted she had become, to convince her to finally rest. The mirror, the tool that had been so central to the construction of her image throughout her life, was used at the end to force her to confront the reality of her decay. It's a moment of devastating irony. You, of course, know nothing of this future. You only see the image of power. You see the Queen's mask, and you see your own. You see her as a symbol of success, not a cautionary tale. You tell yourself that the weakness, the sickness, the pain, these are things that can be overcome with a strong will. The Queen's will is strong enough to rule England. Surely yours can be strong enough to get you to your wedding day. This psychological projection helps you to endure the cures your physician prescribes. You allow the surgeon to bleed you, feeling a grim satisfaction as your weakness deepens, making you even paler, more ethereal. You pretend to take the mercury tonic, but you cleverly dispose of it, throwing the dark liquid out your window late at night. You know on an instinctual level that you cannot survive a second poison. Your body is already fighting a war on one front, it cannot handle another. This act of defiance, of secretly pouring out the medicine, is one of your first true acts of self-preservation. It's a tiny rebellion. You are caught between the doctor's ignorance and your own terrible secret. And you are choosing your secret. You are choosing the devil you know. The leader's killing you. But it is slow, familiar death, and it's intertwined with your identity, your power, your success. The mercury is an unknown, an acute threat prescribed by a man who does not understand you. You look at the Queen's portrait again. You see the immense pressure she must have been under, the constant need to be more than human. You feel a kinship with her predicament. Both of you, in your own ways, are using this white mask to hold your world together. She, to hold a nation. You, to hold a marriage and a future. The stakes are different, but the weapon is the same. And as you put the portrait away, you feel a renewed, if fragile, sense of resolve. You will not falter. You will be as strong as your Queen. You will wear your mask until the very end. The fog in your mind is getting thicker. It's no longer just a matter of simple forgetfulness, of misplacing your fan or forgetting an appointment. The poisoned assault on your brain has entered a new and more terrifying phase. You find yourself drifting in the middle of conversations, your thoughts snagging and unraveling. You will be listening to Sir Alaric describe his day of hunting, and suddenly you have no idea what he is talking about. The words are just sounds, and you have to scramble to piece together the context, nodding and smiling vaguely, praying no one notices. Your memories, once so clear and sharp, are becoming a hazy, unreliable landscape. You try to recall the details of your own childhood, and the images are blurry, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. You remember feelings, the warmth of the sun in the garden, the scratchy wool of your first formal gown, but the specific events, the faces, the names are becoming harder to grasp. It feels as if someone is sneaking into the library of your mind at night and smudging the ink on the pages. This cognitive decline is one of the most tragic symptoms of lead neurotoxicity. The lead ions disrupt the synapses, the connections between brain cells that allow for the formation and retrieval of memories. It's a slow, creeping erasure of the self. You are losing the very stories that make you who you are. One afternoon, you are walking with your mother in the castle's small, old garden. She is talking about the plans for your wedding feast, listing the dishes and the wines. She mentioned she wants to serve the same almond cakes that were served at your aunt's wedding years ago. You remember, don't you, dear? She asks, smiling. You were the flower girl. You spilled wine all over the bishop's robes. She laughs at the memory. You stare at her, a cold pit of fear opening in your stomach. You have no memory of this. None. Not a flicker. An aunt's wedding, a bishop, you as a flower girl, it's a complete blank. You search the fog in your mind, but there is nothing there. Of course, mother. You lie, the words tasting like ash in your mouth. How could I forget? You force a laugh that sounds brittle and strange to your own ears. Your own past is becoming a story told to you by others, a land to which you can no longer return. A strange and sad historical detail, because these cognitive symptoms often manifested as irritability and emotional outbursts. They were frequently interpreted as moral or character failings rather than medical issues. A woman suffering from lead-induced confusion and paranoia might be labeled a shrew or a harpy. Her husband and family might see her as difficult and irrational, never suspecting that her personality was being systematically dismantled by heavy metal. This added a layer of social isolation and blame to the physical suffering. The fog affects more than just your memory, it clouds your judgment. You make strange, impulsive decisions. You give a prize per earring to a serving girl for no reason. You get into a bitter, pointless argument with your father over the color of a new tapestry. You feel your emotions swinging wildly from a dull, listless apathy to sudden, sharp flashes of rage over the smallest things. You feel like you're no longer the one driving your own thoughts and feelings. A malevolent stranger has taken the reins. Historians still debate the extent to which we can diagnose historical figures, but the accounts of people known to use lead cosmetics are filled with suggestive evidence. The volatile temper of Elizabeth I, the madness of certain courtiers, how much of this was innate personality, and how much was slow motion brain damage, it's impossible to know for sure, but the correlation is compelling and deeply unsettling. You are living this uncertainty every day. You are terrified of your own mind. You cling to routines, to familiar objects, to the daily ritual of applying your mask, because these are the only solid things in a world that is becoming increasingly fluid and unreliable. The CERU's mask is no longer just hiding your damaged skin, it's hiding your fragmenting mind. Behind the serene, white facade, a storm is raging. One night, you wake up in a state of absolute terror. For a long, horrifying moment, you don't know where you are. The heavy tapestries, the stone walls of your own bedroom, are alien and threatening. You don't recognize them. The panic is a physical thing, a cold hand squeezing your heart. It takes you a full minute, your breath coming in ragged gasps, to remember. This is your room. This is your home. The disorientation passes, leaving you shaking, undrenched in a cold sweat. You get up and light a candle, your hand trembling. You go to your vanity and stare at your reflection in the polished silver. In the flickering light, your face is pale and haunted, your eyes wide with fear. You look at the pot of Venetian Ceruse sitting on the table. For the first time, you see it not as a promise of beauty, but as the source of this terrifying fog. It gave you the face of a goddess, and in exchange, it is still in your mind. The bargain, which once seemed so brilliant, now feels truly horrifully fortunate. The decay has now reached your smile. For so long, it was your most charming feature, a genuine and warm expression that is now just a memory. Your lips, painted a brilliant red against the white canvas of your face, had become a carefully managed facade for a growing horror. It started with the blue line on your gums, that secret, ugly warning. Now, the poison is launching a full-scale attack on your teeth. They ache, a dull, persistent throb that sometimes sharpens into a piercing pain, forcing you to press a hand to your jaw. The lead circulating in your blood interferes with calcium absorption and weakens the structures that hold your teeth in place. Your teeth are, quite literally, being starved and loosened from their foundations. Then, they begin to change color. The brilliant white you work so hard to create on your face is cruelly inverted in your mouth. Your teeth are becoming gray, shadowed, and, in some places, mottled with black. The lead sulfide that created the Burton line on your gums is now depositing in the porous enamel of your teeth, staining them from the inside out. They are dying. You live in constant fear of anyone seeing them. You have perfected the art of the closed-lip smile. You speak through clenched teeth. You eat with your head down, taking tiny bites, terrified of a piece of hard bread or tough meat causing a loose tooth to break or fall out. Your once beautiful smile, a source of joy and connection, is now a source of pure terror and shame. This dental decay was one of the most infamous and well-documented side effects of the prolonged use of ceruse and other poisons in the era. It's one of the key reasons we know Queen Elizabeth I suffered so terribly, for an ambassadors wrote about her blackened teeth in their official reports. It was a visible, undeniable sign that something was deeply wrong beneath the perfect white mouse. For a monarch whose image was everything, it was a devastating flaw. You are living that same nightmare on a smaller, more personal scale. Sir Alaric, in a moment of tender intimacy, leans in to kiss you. You instinctively turn your head away, offering your cheek instead. You see the hurt and confusion in his eyes, and it feels like a physical blow. How can you explain it to him? How can you tell the man you are supposed to marry that your mouth is a graveyard, that your smile is a lie, that you are rotting from the inside out? The intimacy you once craved is now something you must constantly deflect. A strange and gruesome little fact about dental care in this period: while basic cleaning with cloths and abrasive powders existed, the solutions for a real touch were brutal. The local barber surgeon was the go-to dentist. His primary tool was a terrifying metal hook or forceps. There was no anesthetic, save for a large gulp of strong spirits. The treatment for a painful, decaying tooth was simply to rip it out. The prospect of this violent procedure is a constant, looming threat in the back of your mind. The historical debate around this topic is about cause and effect. Some historians have argued that the terrible dental health of the aristocracy was due to their sugar-rich diet, which was a new and fashionable luxury. Sugar was indeed a major culprit. However, it's now widely believed that the combination of sugar and lead was a perfect storm. The sugar would cause initial decay, and the lead would accelerate the process exponentially, destroying the tooth's structure and creating the characteristic blackening. They were poisoning themselves from two different, fashionable directions. You are caught in this perfect storm. One evening at dinner, you bite down on a piece of roasted chicken. You feel a sickening crack, followed by a sharp, searing pain. You quickly bring your napkin to your mouth, your heart pounding with horror. You excuse yourself from the table, hurrying to the privacy of your chambers. In the horrifying privacy of your room, you spit into the linen napkin. There, amidst the blood and saliva, is a jagged, blackened piece of your own molar. You stare at it. This piece of yourself, this undeniable proof of your decay. All the lies, all the pretenses, all the careful constructions fall away in this moment. You are not a beautiful goddess. You are not a powerful courtier. You are a sick, broken thing. You are a walking ruin, held together by wigs and plaster. You collapse onto your bed, the sobs racking your body. Silent and tearless because even crying too hard might crack your mouth. The beautiful face you bought at such a high price now feels like a cruel joke. a painted sign on a condemned building. Your smile, the most basic expression of human happiness, is gone forever, and you realize, with a terrifying clarity, that the poison will not be satisfied until it has taken everything. Your world has shrunk to the size of your chamber, the grand halls, the bustling courtyards, the sunlit gardens. They are now hostile territories, filled with peril. Every social interaction is a high-wire act. Every conversation a potential minefield. The effort of maintaining the illusion has become monumental. A constant, grinding drain on your dwindling physical and mental resources. So you retreat. You begin by feigning illness more frequently. The vapors, the headaches, the melancholy diagnosed by the physician become your constant excuse. At first, people are sympathetic. Sir Alaric brings you flowers and books. The other ladies send notes of condolence. But as the weeks turn into months, the sympathy corroded less into something else: impatience, then suspicion, then finally, a quiet forgetting. The court moves on. It has no time for a recluse. The seat you once occupied in the circle of porcelain dolls is quickly filled by a new, ambitious young face. Your beautiful gowns hang in the wardrobe, untouched. Your invitations to feasts and balls go unanswered. The cage that once felt gilded and comfortable has now become your whole world. The beauty that was supposed to be your ticket to a grander life has instead become the reason for your complete isolation. You are a prisoner in a jail of your own making, and the bars are forged from leaden fear. This social isolation is a frequently overlooked consequence of chronic illness in history. In a society built on public appearance and social connection, to withdraw was to become invisible. To be invisible was to cease to matter. Women who suffered from these mysterious ailments often just disappeared. They were sent to quiet country estates or confined to their rooms, fading from the social register and from memory. They became ghosts long before they died. You spend your days in a dim twilight, the heavy tapestries drawn against the sun. The sun is your enemy now. It might reveal the flaws in your mask. It might make you sweat and cause the CER used to run. The darkness is your friend. It hides the truth. Your only companion is your handmaiden, Perilous, who now knows most of your secrets out of sheer necessity. She helps you with the wig. She brings you your meals. She listens to your fragmented, sometimes nonsensical monologues. Her face is a mixture of pity and fear. You know she is loyal, but you also know that your decay frightens her. A strange detail about this kind of self-imposed confinement: it often created a feedback loop of mental and physical deterioration. The lack of sunlight would lead to vitamin D deficiency, worsening bone pain and depression. The lack of social interaction would exacerbate feelings of paranoia and despair. The retreat from the world, meant to protect the secret of the illness, ended up accelerating the illness itself. You are living this feedback loop. The less you see people, the more you share them. The more you share them, the less you see them. Your thoughts, now unopposed by the distraction of daily life, turn inward and grow darker. You become obsessed with your own decay. You spend hours in front of your polished silver mirror, not in admiration anymore, but in a kind of horrified forensic examination. You study the angry skin, the thinning hair, the ghost of a blue line on your gums. You are cataloguing your own ruin. The historical debate here concerns the end-of-life care for women like you. When it became clear that a noblewoman was succumbing to a wasting sickness, what happened? The family's primary concern was often to manage the scandal. To maintain their honor, the sick woman could become an embarrassment. The ideal was a quiet, dignified fading away, out of the public eye. Historians passing through family letters from the period often find mentions of a sick daughter or wife being sent away for a change of air, which was often a euphemism for being sent away to die, preserving the family's reputation. Your own family is grappling with this. Your wedding to Sir Alaric's family has been postponed twice. He is loyal, but his family is growing impatient. A marriage alliance is a matter of business, not just romance, and a bride who is constantly ill is a poor investment. You can feel the pressure mounting. Your father avoids your eyes. Your mother's conversations are strained. You are becoming a problem, a liability. The beautiful asset you worked so hard to become has soured. One evening, Alice is helping you remove the thick mask of Ceruse. As she wipes away the paste from your cheek, a small flake of skin comes away with it, leaving a raw, weeping sore. You both stare at it in horrified silence. It's no longer just a rash, it's an open wound. You look at your reflection, at the monstrous face staring back at you, the patchy hair, the rotting teeth, the ruined skin, the haunted, terrified eyes. And you realize the truth. You did not build a beautiful prison. You built a tomb, and you have been burying yourself alive in it, one day at a time. In the dim, quiet solitude of your chamber, you have a lot of time to think. You think about the other porcelain women, the sisterhood you once longed to join. You think of Lady Eleanor, with her weary eyes. You think of Lady Isabel, who disappeared into the country, becoming a ghost in her own lifetime. Your story feels unique and crushingly lonely. But you're not the first, nor will you be the last. Your tragedy is part of a silent, undeclared epidemic, and perhaps no story better illustrates this than that of a real woman. A name that would echo through history as the ultimate victim of this fatal fashion, Maria Gunning, the Countess of Coventry. Her story takes place more than a century after your time, in the glittering, high-stakes social scene of 18th century London. But the poison is the same. The ambition is the same. Marie and her sister, Elizabeth, were two Irish girls of noble birth but little fortune. They were so famously beautiful that they were known simply as the Gunning sisters. Their mother, a fiercely ambitious woman, knew their faces were their only dowry, and she launched them into London society like a pair of exquisitely crafted warships. They were a sensation. Crowds would gather in the streets just to catch a glimpse of them. Their beauty was legendary, and a key part of that beauty, the very pinnacle of 18th century aristocratic fashion, was a perfectly smooth, matte, ghostly white complexion. To achieve this, Maria, like you, became a devoted user of Venetian Ceruse, which was still the gold standard of skin whiteness. This is a key historical fact. The danger of lead cosmetics was not a secret confined to the Middle Ages or the Renaissance. Despite growing awareness and warnings from some physicians, its use persisted for centuries, right into the Georgian era. The allure of the fashion, the immense social pressure, was powerful enough to override the warnings. The demand for that specific, porcelain look was relentless. Maria's beauty bought her the ultimate price. She married the 6th Earl of Coventry, becoming a countess, gaining wealth, status, and a title beyond her wildest dreams. She was a superstar of her day. Her portrait painted by the most famous artists. She had won the game, but the clock was ticking. Like you, she began to suffer from mysterious ailments, fatigue, sickness, and the slow, inexorable decay that the poison demands. And like you, she became trapped in the vicious cycle. The more her natural skin was damaged by the lead, the more of the lead makeup she had to apply to hide the damage. Her life became a constant, desperate effort to maintain the beautiful facade that had made her famous. A sad, peculiar detail about her story is that her own husband is said to have hated her makeup. There are accounts of him chasing her around the room with a handkerchief, trying to scrub the odious paint from her face. It's a strangely intimate and tragic image, a husband trying, in a clumsy and perhaps cruel way, to save his wife from the very thing she believed she needed to be worthy of his love and her station. The historical debate surrounding Maria's death is less of a debate and more of a consensus. She died at the age of 27, while the official cause was consumption tuberculosis. The physicians and gossips of the day were all in agreement on the contributing factor. The phrase used over and over again in letters and diaries from the period was that she had been killed by cosmetics. She was a victim of beauty, a martyr to makeup. The London Chronicle, a newspaper of the time, explicitly stated that her disorder was occasioned by the use of white lead. hoping her fate would be a warning to others. You sit in your room, centuries before Maria Gunning will be born. Yet you are her spiritual twin. You feel her story resonate with your own. The ambition, the initial triumph, the dependence, the slow decay, the tragic end. You see how this story repeats itself. A recurring nightmare haunting the noble houses of Europe for hundreds of years. You think of the Countess, a celebrated beauty, wasting away in her grand house, her body failing her famous face and mask hiding a landscape of ruin. Did she also have moments of terror in the middle of the night? Did she also stare at her own blackened teeth in a mirror, her heart filled with dread? Did she feel trapped, isolated, and utterly alone, even when surrounded by wealth and servants? Her story, though it comes from the future, gives your own suffering a context. It tells you that you are not just one unlucky girl. You are a soldier in a long, silent war, fought by women in their own bedrooms, in front of their own mirrors. A war against their own faces, against the sun, against aging, against the very notion of a natural appearance. And it is a war with only one victor, the poison in the pewter pot, looking at your own pot of Ceruse on the vanity. You understand that its victory is not just over your health, but over your hope. Maria Gunning's story became a famous cautionary tale. But cautionary tales are only useful if people are willing to listen. And for centuries, they were not. The end of your engagement to Sir Alaric comes not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a quiet, heartbreaking courtesy. His father, a pragmatic and powerful man, requests a meeting with your father. The meeting is brief. Afterwards, your father, his face looking older and more weary than you have ever seen it, comes to your chamber. He does not need to say the words. You can see the verdict in his eyes. The alliance is off. A bride whose health is so clearly and permanently broken is no asset. The dream that the Ceruse was supposed to buy the perfect marriage, the secure future, has officially dissolved. You feel a strange sense of numbness. There is no shock, no surprise. It's the final, logical step in your decline. A part of you, the small, rational part that has survived the fog, knew this was inevitable, but the finality of it is a heavy, crushing weight. The mask has failed. The poison has won. The court, which had already begun to forget you, now solidifies your status as a tragic footnote. You are no longer a recluse by choice, you are a social pariah by circumstance. You are the girl who was too sick to be married, the flawed investment, the broken doll. The whispers about you are now tinged not with envy or admiration, but with pity and a certain smug satisfaction from those who never liked you in the first place. But the true, gut-wrenching moment of public humiliation is yet to come. Your mother, in a desperate attempt to dispel the rumors and perhaps to prove to herself that all is not lost, insists that you attend Sunday service in the chapel. Just for an hour, she pleads, her eyes brimming with tears. Show them you are not at death's door. Show them there is still strength in you. Reluctantly, weakly, you agree. The effort is monumental. Alice spends 2 hours on your facade, a thicker layer of Ceruse than ever before to hide the sores. The wig is carefully secured. Your lips are painted a defiant red. You are propped up, dressed in a magnificent gown that now swallows your frail frame, and escorted to the chapel, leaning heavily on your father's arm. You feel 100 pairs of eyes on you as you walk slowly down the aisle to your family's pew. The air in the chapel is thick with the scent of incense and unwashed bodies. It's warmer than you expected. You feel a bead of sweat trickle down your temple from under the heavy wig. You sit stiffly, your back ramrod straight, trying to project an image of serene composure. The service drones on. The priest's voice is a monotonous hum. The heat is becoming unbearable. You feel dizzy, the fog in your mind swirling. You can feel more sweat forming on your forehead and upper lip. You start to panic. Sweat is the enemy. It is the solvent that can undo your entire construction. You dab delicately at your face with a lace handkerchief, but you can feel the pace starting to feel tummy, unstable. Then, it happens. A wave of intense nausea and dizziness washes over you. You gasp, your hand flying to your mouth, and you lurch forward, trying to keep from fainting. The movement is too sudden, too violent. In that moment of lurching, your face contorts, and the mask, weakened by the sweat and stretched by your sudden grimace, gives way. It doesn't just smudge, it cracks. A visible fissure runs from your cheekbone down to your jaw. And then, a small patch of the white enamel, like a chip of old plaster, detaches and flakes off, falling onto the dark velvet of your sleeve. There is a collective, audible gasp from the people sitting in the pew behind you. The woman next to you, a distant cousin, recoils, her eyes wide with horror. She has seen it. She has seen the raw, red, ulcerated skin beneath. She has seen the truth. This moment, the cracking of the facade is the ultimate nightmare for every woman who used CERUs. It's a recurring motif in the satirical literature of the period. Plays and poems would describe scenes where a lady's enamel would crack from a too wide smile, or melt and run down her face at a hot summer party, revealing the true face beneath. It was the ultimate social catastrophe. For you, it is the end of everything. The carefully constructed illusion is shattered. Not in the privacy of your room, but in the full view of the entire court. The whispers that follow you as your father hastily helps you from the chapel are 1,000 times worse than before. They are not whispers of gossip, they are whispers of revulsion. You are not just a tragic figure anymore. You are a monster. The mask didn't just fall off, it revealed something far more terrifying than anyone had imagined. You stumble out into the daylight, which feels like a physical assault. Your heart hammering with a shame so profound it eclipses every other pain you have ever felt. The aftermath of the chapel incident is a deepened, profound silence. The world has given up on you. There are no more visitors. No more notes. No more worried inquiries. Your family, deeply shamed, treats you with a gentle, funereal kindness. They are no longer trying to cure you or marry you off. They are simply waiting for you to die. You have been moved to a more secluded wing of the castle. Your windows overlooking a quiet, forgotten courtyard. The pretense is over. You are now officially what you have been for a long time, an invalid. The poison, now unchecked, accelerates its final, brutal assault. The strength drains from your limbs. The lead has insinuated itself into your muscles and your peripheral nerves, causing a condition known as lead palsy. Your hands, which once trembled, now shake uncontrollably. Holding a spoon is a challenge. Signing your name is impossible. Your legs feel heavy, uncooperative. Getting out of bed requires the full assistance of your long-suffering handmaiden, Alice. Some days, you don't get out of bed at all. Your body is becoming a prison from which you can no longer escape. You have no desire to apply the CERUs anymore. What's the point? There is no one to see you, no one to impress. The pot of Venetian CERUs sits on your vanity, untouched, a monument to your own folly. You no longer wear the wig. Your real hair is now thin and wispy, like an old woman's. You sometimes catch a glimpse of your reflection in the polished water basin Alice brings you, and you see a stranger, a skeletal, haunted creature with sunken eyes and ruined skin. There is no trace of the pretty girl you once were, nor of the beautiful monster you became. Both have been consumed. The mainstream historical understanding of lead poisonings and stages aligns perfectly with your experience. The palsy, the extreme muscle weakness, the severe anemia, and the final cognitive collapse are all well documented. Patients would become bedridden, unable to care for themselves, often suffering from excruciating abdominal pain known as saturnine colic. It was a slow, agonizing, and undignified end. You drift in undoubt of consciousness, your sense of time dissolving. The days blur into a single, grey continuum of pain, weakness, and confusion. The fog in your mind is no longer a fog, it's a dense, impenetrable darkness, pierced by strange, terrifying hallucinations. You see figures in the shadows of your room. You hear voices whispering your name from the walls. The lead is completing its conquest of your brain, sparking random, meaningless signals that your mind interprets as ghosts and demons. A grim but true detail: the final stages of lead encephalopathy often involve seizures. The brain, so overwhelmed by the toxin, begins to short-circuit, leading to violent, uncontrollable convulsions. It is a terrifying, unfatal conclusion to the slow neurological decay. The great historical debate here is a moral one. Who was to blame for these tragedies? Was it the women themselves? For their vanity? Was it the society that created such impossible beauty standards? Was it the merchants and alchemists who sold the poison, knowing it was harmful? Or was it a perfect storm of ignorance, ambition, and cultural pressure, where no single party holds all the blame? Looking back from our modern vantage point, it's easy to judge, but from within the system, the lines were much blurrier. You didn't feel like you had a choice. You were playing the only game available to you, with the only tools you were offered. In a rare moment of lucidity, you are lying in your bed, the afternoon sun casting a long, lonely rectangle of light on the stone floor. Alice is sitting quietly in a corner, mending a piece of linen. You look at your own hand lying on the blankets. It is thin, pale, and the fingers are curled into a claw-like shape you can't undo. It doesn't look like your hand. It's the hand of a stranger. You think of the first time you applied the Ceruse, the feeling of the cool, heavy paste on your fingertips, the thrill of the transformation, the power you felt at that first banquet. It seems a lifetime ago. Was it worth it, that one night of triumph, the weeks of courtship, with a man whose face you can now barely recall? You try to weigh it all in the scales of your mind, but your mind is too broken to work. There is no sense to be made of it. Your body has sent its final, irrevocable ultimatum. It has been warning you for months, in a language you refuse to understand, with itches and aches, with blue lines and black teeth, with fog and fatigue. You ignored every signal. You papered over every warning with a fresh layer of white lead. No, there are no more warnings to give. There is only the final, silent, complete surrender of a body that can fight no more. The world has faded to whispers and shadows. You are floating in a timeless, placeless space, adrift on a sea of fever and fragmented memories. The boundary between waking and dreaming has dissolved completely. Sometimes you see your mother's face, etched with a grief so deep it seems ancient. Sometimes you feel a cool cloth on your forehead, a small, temporary anchor in the burning delirium. But mostly, you are alone with the ghosts the poison has made in your mind. You are a child again, running through a field of wildflowers, your face turned up to a warm, benevolent sun. The memory is so vivid, so real. You can feel the tickle of the grass on your ankles and the heat on your skin. It is a memory of a time before mirrors, before ambition, before the mess. It is a memory of pure, uncomplicated being. But then the sun turns cold and white, the flowers wither into black dust, and the memory crumbles, leaving you back in the darkness. Your story is ending. It's a quiet, unremarkable end, happening in a forgotten room in a provincial castle. There is no grand deathbed pronouncement, no final, tragic speech. There is only the slow, quiet fading of a single, flickering candle. Your journey, which began with a young girl staring at her reflection and wishing for a different face, is closing its circle. You have become the ghost you sought to emulate. This is the final, undeniable historical point. This was the end for countless women. Their names are mostly lost to us, recorded only as a daughter who wasted away or a wife who succumbed to a long illness. They are the silent, uncounted casualties of a centuries-long obsession. Their suffering was private, their deaths were quiet, and their stories were buried with them, hidden under a final layer of funeral propriety. Your name will be forgotten, but your story, and the story of the poison you took in the name of beauty, will echo. It will become a cautionary tale whispered in medical schools, a curious footnote in history books, a lurid topic for future storytellers. The pewter pot of Venetian Ceruse will eventually be replaced by other, safer cosmetics. Science will march on, and the understanding of toxicology will grow. The specific danger of lead-based makeup will fade into the past. But the ghost of the idea behind it will linger. The belief that one's natural face is not enough. The pressure to conform to an arbitrary, and often punishing, standard of beauty. The willingness to endure pain, to spend a fortune, to risk health, all in the pursuit of an ideal. That ghost will prove to be far more resilient than the poison itself. The academic debate that continues to this day is not just about the chemistry of Ceruse or the specifics of 16th century courtly life. It's about the very nature of beauty, tone, and identity. How do societies define what is beautiful? And why are those definitions so often tied to wealth, curse, and even unhealthiness? Why do we continue to believe that beauty is something that can be bought and applied, rather than something that simply is your story as a single, tragic data point in this long, ongoing, and deeply human conversation? Your breathing is shallow now. A single, final thought flickers in the ruins of your mind. It is an image of your own face, not in the polished silver mirror, but reflected in a clear pool of water in the garden. It is the face with the freckles, the rosy cheeks, the skin that glowed with health and life, the face you hated, the face you erased. And in this last, fading moment, you would give anything at all, to hold it back. But it is gone. And now, so are you. Your story ends. A quiet whisper absorbed into the cold stone walls of the castle. A final, silent testament to the eternal, terrible price of beauty. The world around you softens, its sharp edges blurring into a gentle haze. The stone walls of the castle seem to dissolve, melting away into a soft, quiet mist. The story is over, its echoes fading like the last notes of a distant song, leaving only a profound and peaceful silence in its wake. You can feel the weight of the heavy velvet gown, the itch of the wig, the stiffness of the Ceruse mass, all of it just lifting away, as if a great burden has been gently removed from your shoulders. You are light now, untethered from the pain and the striving, the desperate need for approval, the fear of discovery, the relentless ache of the poison. It all recedes, becoming small and distant, like a storm that has passed over the horizon, leaving the air clean and still. You are drifting now, in a place of deep comfort and rest. The narrative has concluded, and your role as the protagonist is finished. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to go. There is only the gentle sensation of floating in a warm, dark, quiet space, like the deep, dreamless part of sleep. Let the rhythm of your own breathing be the only guide now, a slow and steady tide pulling you further away from the shore of wakefulness. Each breath in is peace, each breath out is release. The journey is done. It is time to rest. The end of the article. Good night.